So welcome back everyone to another incredible episode of Chat with Dan here for today on the show. What can I say? I'm already speechless and we haven't even started yet because we have on the show the incredible, the amazing, the badass, the superstar, the legendary, the one and only Makayla. Makayla, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you? Enjoying some sunshine.
Fantastic. Man, what better way to have an incredible, super badass Tuesday than to be chatting with someone as badass as you? You know what I mean?
Oh, thanks. I feel the same about you. You've got so many cool interviews, so
Thank you.
it's an honor.
I appreciate it. Now, before we start, I want to thank those who are tuning in. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow. It helps a lot. But also in the description below, you're gonna find all of Makayla's social media. Let's follow her. Let's find out why she's super badass. We're on a mission right now. And without further ado, let's jump in. So, starting out this epic conversation, I want to start by throwing the first question, which is, what initially all started? Like, what triggered it? Was it something that you saw when you were little, or like, what triggered this whole journey to begin?
Yeah, I think for me, the moment that I knew I had to do this was my parents and my family took me to see Beauty and the Beast on Broadway when I was 5 years old. We were there for a wedding, but we got to catch a Broadway show, and they were really nervous to take me because they thought at 5 I would be jumping up and down and I'd be screaming and I'd be like everyone's worst nightmare when they go to the theater. And instead I sat there mesmerized. Like I think my jaw just dropped the whole show and I watched it and I couldn't articulate it at 5 years old, but I knew I wanted to make people feel the way I felt in that moment at 5. And at 5, of course, there's the magic of princesses and being swept up in that. But then as I've gotten older, it's for me the movies and the shows that just hit a place that I don't think anything else can, of seeing you as a person or something you're going through, or just the humanity around realizing that we're not alone in this crazy thing called life, and we all experience grief and loss and joy and celebration and anger, and storytelling just brings it in a way that I don't think anything else can.
Epic start. I'm already having this badass vibes, just saying. You know.
Yeah, they're
Anyway,
like Princess Badass, both.
um, yeah. So time went by and everything, but tell me, what were some of those first challenges, let's say, you encountered as you were making your first steps into a pro career, let's say?
Yeah, I think a lot through university because I was a dancer. I didn't get to quite sink my teeth into roles the way I think I wanted to, because we always needed another dancer for the show, and they felt like it was always better for the show if I got to dance. So it was really cool when I finally kind of came out of university, and all of my training as a dancer really set me up to be a swing. So in the beginning of my whole kind of theatrical career, I was almost always a swing. So I could play the villain, I could play the princess. I got to learn how to sword fight. I got to learn stunts. I got to learn circus, and learning all these different styles and kind of range of roles was so hard. But that was the first time I felt like I really got to sink my teeth into it. But I think the biggest challenge then was figuring out who I was outside of oh, she could kind of play everything. Like when I wasn't swinging, it was, well, where do I fit in best? Where do I tell the story best? Who really am I as Makayla? And what do I bring to something that isn't just oh, she's the girl that can learn all these tracks? I think that's been one of the biggest challenges. And then going from working a lot to going through the grind of auditioning and the pandemic, and going from walking in the room and at least clocking kind of a vibe of meeting people and getting to win them over in the room, or at least getting a sense or a vibe of things or feedback, to sending all these tapes into the abyss and not really knowing if they're even being watched, or going through long periods of no feedback, learning how to keep going and trust yourself as an artist. I think that's been some of the biggest challenges. And then my kind of overarching personal biggest challenge was I had a really bad accident. And so kind of going from this career of oh, I'm always going to be the dancer and I'm always going to be able to play all these different roles and have a place in the ensemble, to realizing that my whole life had changed after that, and trying to figure out where I was going to go from there, what my journey was going to be, and finding that journey back to me and who I was outside of just being a dancer was a huge challenge. And through that, kind of learning like, oh, I did this because I'm a storyteller. I want to tell stories and I want to move people. I don't have to be a dancer to do that. There's so many other ways that I can do that. So it took a while. It took a while to get there, but it really ended up being a blessing in disguise.
Hmm, I like it. And what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about, those who are in the arts generally, either music, dancing, acting? Like, what do you think is one of those kind of things, yeah, misconceptions that happen around?
Oh man, so many. Um, I don't think people realize that maybe don't work in the artistic space. Yeah, it's hard to go through a couple of job interviews, or some people are going through 5, 6 rounds of interviews and then they're getting their job. But we go through that for every single job that we are taking. So whether it's one day on set or it's a 9 month contract or a series regular, you have to be so strong in yourself as a person and like really learn your worth outside of your job or outside of the industry. That I think that's kind of a misconception, is people outside of the artistic space don't realize that we are doing that for every single job that we are trying to take. And on top of that, taking our acting classes, our dance lessons, our voice lessons, networking to meet the people we want to meet, also trying to balance day jobs and friendships and our relationships with our family. It's a lot more is sacrificed, I think, to be a part of this because we love it and to move people, but it's not easy to stay in this space and it takes a lot of commitment.
Absolutely. I love it. That is pretty cool. You just keep raising the bar on how badass you are. It is amazing. It is amazing. And before starting out this, so you get the role, tell me like what is your usual process, right? Like what is your create is it more like peeling layers of yourself or putting like a mask on you? Like what is your usual process for you to start creating this character you're about to present?
I think I do a combination of what would this feel like if Makayla, the person, was stepping into this world and experiencing what this character is experiencing and pulling from some of that. And I've also found that a lot of the roles I've been cast in have either been kind of previous versions of myself that I can bring to this character. And I'm like, oh, I felt that way when, 5 years ago when I was going through this particular thing. Or I've had really close friendships with people who are really actively moving through that space. So one of the roles, like I was playing someone who was going through the process of IVF and how painful and exhausting and complicated that is. And like I, Makayla, have never in my life experienced that. I have nothing to draw from as me, but I had had a friend, close friend at the time, who was just really in the throes and the trenches of that. And so having like deep, honest conversations of how she was feeling and how it affected her self-worth, bringing all of those layers in for me is how I kind of rooted myself in the character. But sometimes too, it's also the opportunity of like getting to be someone so far from myself, but how could I tap into that side of myself? So like, especially in villain roles, it's like I don't walk around in my day-to-day life trying to be a villain, but I do try to imagine that it's like, are these circumstances in my life that maybe could drive me with the right thing to go down this pathway that this person did? And how can I pull those parts out of myself? So it's a common, every character is different. I don't think I have a singular process for one character. And then two, it is how does this person feel in my body? Like where are they rooted? How would this person walk? How are they interacting with the people around them? Are they present or are they disassociated or are they some combination of those things? Having that in the backstory, the more layered and kind of nuanced, I think, because we're all complicated, we're so nuanced as humans. There's not these black and white things. And I think the more that I can bring that to a character, the more real they feel in their relationships with people.
Okay, and how did you emotionally decompress after intense scenes or stories, perhaps?
I have to like go on a walk, especially if we're shooting a really, really intense scene. It's really nice if lunch is after and I can like be like, okay, on my lunch, I'm just gonna like go on a walk and I'm gonna call my mom or I'm gonna call my husband or I'm gonna play with my puppies when I get home. Uh, Probably the most intense character I ever played. It was such an intense couple of weeks of shooting. I went to Disney after. I was like, I need like a something a little bit lighter in my life after like all of that. Just trying to stay grounded and rooted, and I'm a very active person, so hiking, going to the gym, going on walks, things like that is kind of helpful for me to like let it go after.
I mean, it's understandable, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a job, and
Yeah.
so I get it. We all have, yeah, I get it, basically. And have you ever found a part of yourself that you didn't expect while you were embodying a role?
Oh, yeah. So many. Um, I think villains are the most interesting to play because I don't think like people are born evil or they're not, born that this is their trajectory of life or whatever. So learning what could push you so much in a way to make decisions or make choices that I, Makayla, feel like I would never make in my life, but kind of uncovering the things in my life that, if pushed a certain way, maybe could relate in that way, I think has taught me a lot. I think I've learned a lot too about stepping in roles that are so different from me, also in like a little bit happier kind of way, not a villainy way of like, it's maybe something I've never wanted in my life, but then putting myself in that position of that character, uh, it teaches me or brings me a new perspective that I'm like, maybe I should think about this a little bit more. Or maybe there is this part of me that is longing for this thing that I didn't see before. Because sometimes characters are like masks or a mirror in a way that, to be truthful to them, you have to walk in their shoes. And it just teaches you something. I mean, even like Val in a chorus line, like I don't run around saying, dance 10 looks 3. I didn't, go get a boob job or whatever, but walking a mile in the shoes and being like, man, if I was going through rejection after rejection after rejection and I'd uprooted my whole life and gone to this place, and I learned so much resilience of like, maybe that's not the way I dealt with it, but the similarities and the pathways of how like I found myself in Val, and how I brought her to life, because I do have parallels with her and I'm just now seeing them from playing her, if that makes sense.
Mhm. And what do you enjoy the most about playing a villain?
Ooh. I think if you play a villain really well, I think you force people to ask questions. Um, you encourage people maybe to examine themselves as humans, and also to be able to look at the world and look at people with more empathy of like maybe why they're not why they're making the decisions that they're making. And I think it's fun to be the obstacle for like the hero of, without the villain, like they, or without the person who is in their way or whatnot, they can't get the thing that they want. And so it can be a really fun game of like, ooh, I get to kind of prove that like maybe you're not going to get that thing that you want. And that makes the journey like way more interesting for the audience to then see how this person is going to move past that. But I think the most enjoyable thing about villains is just getting to bring more layers and more empathy to them, so they aren't this one-sided thing, but there's like deep, 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 deep layers that have gone into and shaped this person into why they are where they are and like the decisions they've made.
What is your process to deal with rejection? Is there something you usually do, or like what is your thing here?
I think it helped a lot when I got on the other side of the camera and the other side of the table. It was quite hard to deal with rejection before that. It was kind of the typical, well, there's something better for you, or you weren't meant to get this because there's something else happening, or like, what can I take from this? But then when I got on the other side of the table, like the last short film that I cast, or I didn't cast it, but I was producing it, and I got to work with the casting director and seeing everyone's tapes and all the conversations we had, and like how much we loved some actors, but we were building a family. So we needed a sister, we needed two sisters and a mom that believably looked like they could be a family. And it really didn't come down to the best actor or the best actress. It really came down to, what is the best combination of people that we have seen that believably fit together like a family? And when I started to kind of look at things more from that lens and realize that like the rejection isn't necessarily talent, like yes, sometimes I'm going to have bad auditions. Like how do I always make sure I'm putting my best foot forward so that's not happening, and training and the things that are in my control, but also just realizing that like so much of it is out of my control. That's really just helped me deal with rejection so much more. And the project is so much bigger than me. Now it's more important to have an audience, and people are trying to cast people with audiences and such. So how can I continually be creatively fulfilled? Can I make my own stuff? Sometimes it's coming down to those things. I think it's just been really more of a perspective shift than anything. And it's hard when it's something that like you really want and you really want to be a part of that thing. But there's just so much that is beyond my control. So I keep making my own stuff and do some music, and I have puppies and friends, and I try to lean into that. Or surfing. Surfing's really helpful when it's continual after a while and it feels like it's speeding you up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end, you know, I mean, of course, nobody likes being rejected, right? And it can sting a little bit at first, at least. But so many actors have told me that the more like it's kind of interesting because the more you submit, the more rejections you will have. But yet
Yeah.
again, the more stronger you will become, and the more wiser you will be, like to not let yourself being affected by that. Be like, okay, I'll move along with my day and do other stuff, or as you said, create like your own thing. I do think that also opens the possibility to do more stuff. And yeah, you know,
Yeah.
so that's pretty cool. And you mentioned that you also produce like a little bit. Tell me where did it all started? Like what got you into the producing world as well?
Yeah. I had a children's entertainment company for a long time and still do. And I would produce events all the time. And I didn't realize that skill set was really lent itself to producing in film, or if I did produce theater, kind of similarly, that a lot of producing is just making things happen and solving problems and connecting the right people together and figuring out how to bring together the creative vision and the business side of it. Producing for me in film ultimately came out of I realized that nobody was going to give me the opportunity to really show what I could do, because it takes a lot of trust. And like now being on the producing side and seeing how much work goes into it and how many months you've spent planning before casting is even happening, and you're raising the money and you're trying to prove to people that this thing is going to work, that if someone doesn't have a proven track record, or they're not proven to have been on that big of a project, I mean, it can very quickly sink the ship if they're not ready to be there. So I realized for me that first writing and casting myself in something to show that I could do that was part of why I started producing. And then I got to that weekend on set and I came off and I was like, I've never felt that awesome. Like, just watching everyone come together and create this thing that I had written, and brought the director together and the cast and found the locations. And I just found this joy in something that I never expected before, beyond like me getting to act in something. And I think too, I realized like, oh, I'm a storyteller. I don't need to just wait for people to hand me the opportunities to tell stories. Like, I have stories I want to tell. And why not write them and put teams together and learn how to fundraise and learn how to do all these things to make them happen? And so that's how I ended up producing my first feature. And I co-wrote it, co-produced it, starred in it, and that feature has really done more for me than anything I've ever been cast in, because I got to show that I could lead a film, and seeing the journey from start to finish. And there's nothing cooler than getting to like hire people and offer them jobs and pay them. And uh, it's a very unique way to get to connect with people, and that people don't just like see you in one light, but they see you as someone who's like really championing storytelling and bringing that forward. So at first it just kind of came out of necessity of like, I want to kind of prove I can do this. And now it's like, no, I have these stories that I feel like I have to tell, and I want to be creative, and I don't want to just wait on the next opportunity. If I can put the team together, and like when you get that, the first one is so hard and the second one is so hard, but now like it's a little bit easier to get projects made, or it's a little bit easier to meet more people and grow each time, because you can show people what you've already done. You can show people that I can finish something and I can put a team together, and like, especially if you can create an amazing experience on set for people, then people want to come back and work with you. And then beyond that, I think I realized too, if we're going to spend all this time on set, like let's love that time on set and let's have a great time. So let's put together an amazing team that loves hanging out together. And then not only are we like making this movie, but also you're hanging out with a lot of really cool people and making art in the process. And I think that's what's just like kept me going of like, I'm going to keep producing stuff no matter what, because I want to hang out with people that are really awesome to hang out with and make cool stuff. So,
More badass. What can I say? This is pretty cool. And producing is often, kind of a invisible work, right? So how do you personally define success in a role rarely gets a spotlight?
oh, there's so many ways to find success. I think one is like finishing it. There's so many places that it can fall apart. It can fall apart in development. It can fall apart in funding. It can fall apart in casting. It can fall apart in pre-production, production, post-production, distribution. A lot of people, at first it sounds like really sexy to produce something, and then you're like, oh, I got to do rewrites and then I got to find money, and then I got to put the team together. And I think a couple of things happens in that are really important. You either realize the story is so worth telling that no matter what happens and no matter how many times the funding falls apart or like another form of rejection, people tell me, no, I don't want to fund your story, or I don't want to support your story, or like good luck, or just don't respond. It either makes you take a step back and be like, do I really want to do this or not? Is this story really worth telling? Or it's no, like I know this story has to be out there, because you get those people that go, man, I've never seen this represented on screen, or I've never heard of this type of story, or like this has to be out there. Like, absolutely, yes, I'm all in and I'm going to share with people. And like, we have to get this story out there. To the flip side of like, some people finish it and then they go, I don't know where to put it. No one gave me some money to distribute it, or like how marketing, what is that? You as a producer, you're really seeing the project all the way from the beginning to all the way to the end. If you're a producer and not just like line producer, or like a production supervisor or whatever. Um, so really step one of success for me was like, did we finish it? Did we get it out there? And then step two of that is like, did I strengthen my relationships with everyone that was a part of this? And did I grow as a human? Did everyone around me grow as a human? Are we stronger and more connected? Because it's hard. You get on set and you have these really long days, and like the production day ends, but you're not done because you're still looking at dailies and sending call sheets and thinking about catering tomorrow, and oh, this actor can't come anymore, oh, this crew position has to be different now, or oh, now this location doesn't have parking. That you really have to learn how to roll with punches, which then I think makes you a little bit more chill of an actor too, if you're just like, I am one piece in this like big machine. But yeah, finishing a project is really hard, so that's like step one of success for me.
Okay, okay. And what does creative leadership look like to you, especially when everything gets chaotic or even conflicting visions at the table comes? Like, how do you usually nurture it to prevent chaos?
Yeah, that's a hard one too. I think you have to establish from the outset who has the final say. A lot of people say the producer should. Sometimes I think that's the case. Sometimes I actually don't, especially when it comes to indie. The last project I produced, the directors wrote it and were directing it. And I felt like as a producer, and I told them, like, if I really see a red flag, I'm going to stop you and really urge you as to why it's a red flag or why we should think about something differently. But at the end of the day, it was their creative baby. I didn't want to step in the way of that. So I think a huge part of creative leadership is like, who has the final say, finding collaborators and asking good questions to I think a lot of it just comes in hiring, like who you're hiring, your heads of departments. When you're usually the first person that I'll hire after, like, if a director has come to me and I'm going to produce, or if I'm the director and I'm finding a producer, after we've established that relationship, is our DOP. And do we speak the same language? How are we going to communicate on set? Do our creative visions align? Because if they don't, it's probably never going to get better. Same with production designer, your sound designer, your editor, all of those different things. I think it comes from asking the right questions and then kind of navigating. Like, there comes a point where some people might have different creative ideas that not one's not better or one's not worse, but what is going to either serve the story most, or is it worth reopening this thing or not? How can we maybe honor both creative visions? Can we or can we not? Is there a way that they make sense together? I think it comes from really getting a sense and a vibe of people and asking good questions, hiring to prevent a lot of that, and then conflict management when you're on set or in post is really, can we just get these couple of people that need to be in a room together to talk about this? And can we talk about this like adults? I just don't think like yelling or screaming or demanding or whatever is ever a part of this. At the end of the day, like realizing we're all just trying to tell a story. We're not saving a life or anything like in that moment, kind of reshifts people's perspective. And then along the way, as like you do this more and more, you find those people that you trust and you speak the same language with, and you know are going to be honest with you and have your back. And at the same time, you're going to be honest and have theirs. That's why people work together a lot, because you know what they're like on set, or you know what they're like outside of the process, that you can't trade those types of relationships for the world.
What do you think a story owes? Is it to their Is it to their audience, to truth, escape, even discomfort, or something else entirely?
It's really dependent on the project. We changed the entire ending of the feature because we felt like it better served the story and the audience to not do the original ending that we wrote. And we both actually were in total agreement on it. We watched it and we were like, it's not right if we do this ending. This is how it needs to end instead. I think you have to always think of the audience and the journey of the audience, because without an audience, you're never like, who's going to watch it? Who's going to share it? They are the people that are going along the journey with you. So I think no matter what you're doing, you have to think of the audience, whether you're giving them some escapism or whether you're challenging them. I think it depends on the genre and what your goal is, or whether you're trying to make them feel seen. Like some of the projects that I've been a part of, it's how are we best representing a lot of storytelling and empathy, and healing is kind of built out of people being able to see themselves in the characters, and sometimes the choices that we're making are to reflect that. But I've also been a part of projects where like there's a pit in your stomach and it's because the audience is supposed to be uncomfortable, and you can take them out of that discomfort, but actually it serves them more to live in that discomfort.
Do you think there is a problem with stories being told these days, or nah, not at all?
Depends on where you're looking, right? Like everyone talks about Hollywood is dead because we just keep resurrecting the same franchises and the same characters over and over again, because we're like, oh, they have these built-in audiences. Oh, this was successful in the past. I think the problem with like today is everyone wants a formula and there is no formula. Like who knew that Barbie and Oppenheimer would everything about, no one could have predicted that. There's nothing about Barbenheimer. Like, yes, were people going to go see Barbie because like we grew up on Barbies? Yes. Were some people like going to think Oppenheimer was cool because of how it's rooted in history and that journey? But the phenomenon of the two together, like that's not something anyone ever could have predicted. So to try to like repeat formulas or repeat stories again, or exhaust IPs that kind of people are tired of, I think is the biggest problem that we're having. But you take that and you look in the indie space, and that's where like I feel like a lot of boundary pushing is happening, or like people watch Sinners and they're blown away because it isn't that. It is bold, and it is venturing into new territory. It doesn't feel exhausted. It doesn't feel formulaic. It doesn't, but I think the challenge with indies is always the marketing and getting it out there and what's being pushed with the ads and such. But I look a lot in the indie space, because when I go to film, every time I go to a film festival and I watch features, I feel like I come out of it and I go, man, that's like one of the best films I've seen all year. But if I just went to Regal or AMC or whatnot, like I probably wouldn't even see the film because it's probably not even showing there because it's so expensive. I just think and you're seeing it now with like, oh, we want proven actors, we want proven showrunners, we want proven this, and we want proven that. But sometimes like the best risk is in the person who's not groomed by the system or not wrapped up in the system because they're bringing a fresh voice.
Do you usually write to heal, to challenge, to remember, or to be remembered?
Ooh, probably all of them. I think all of them. It really depends on what I'm writing. Shredded for me was a like when I was going through my accident, I felt like which Shredded was the first feature I wrote. I felt like there was nothing that quite captured the feeling of having your whole life change in front of you and not knowing what to do about it. Um, and then setting it in a circumstances that were fictional, but was trying to convey that through a couple of people. So it was healing for me because I feel like I finally put my story out there in a way that I was hoping would resonate and heal other people. Um, and a lot of healing to that. But I think the story also, I have stuff I write that just really challenges people. It's, we're living in society and maybe sometimes blindly following these things that we shouldn't be following, or we don't know why we're following them, or that's just it is what it is. And so I do feel like I write a lot to challenge too. I hope it's memorable. I hope I hope it sticks with people just beyond the however long, 5 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 120 minutes that they're watching it. I hope it goes with them beyond that. Not to like remember me, but to take them into their life.
I mean, at the end, it's all about connection. You know what I mean? Or,
Yeah.
or at least
Yeah.
that's what I have kind of discovered or to actually be working on to be able to impact someone with your own story or by something you mention or something. I think that is like super powerful, and when you're able to
Yeah.
do that, it's when you are actually kind of creating like your own legacy to it.
I think to me, the biggest compliment is when someone's like, man, I really saw myself in that, or that made me think of a new perspective, or like I went home and talked to so and so about this thing in my life for a long time. And I think it causing someone to be more human. And the best quote I ever heard, and I think this is like maybe what frustrates me so much about film and TV and the casting process sometimes, is they were like, when you're watching a celebrity in something, you are seeing the celebrity. But sometimes the nice thing about watching like an indie film with no one is you don't know who that person is. You just see the character and you don't see anyone else. And maybe that person is that character, who knows? But because you don't know them, like you get more lost in the story than if you're like, oh, Leonardo DiCaprio is such a great actor. He's amazing in this role. And he is, and he probably dives into it, but to get to see it through this lens of just like I'm in for the story. So
I like it. That's pretty. That's like even more badass here. Just saying, you know. And moving to our next section, speed up round, yes, no, or pass. Super simple. Gonna ask you 10 questions, in which your answer would be yes, no, or maybe pass. Who
okay.
knows?
All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
So, number one, have you ever fought to keep a scene in, even when everyone else wanted to cut it?
Yes.
Have you ever written or acted in something that felt more like a confession than fiction?
Yes.
Do you believe flawed characters is more powerful than a heroic one?
Yes.
Have you ever worked on a project that changed your worldview completely?
Yes.
Have you ever taken a role or produced a story you knew would be misunderstood, but did it anyway?
Yes.
Is creative control more important to you than commercial success?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever cried over a character, one you created, played, or even directed?
Yes.
I mean, would you ever abandon a perfect script even if it didn't feel honest anymore?
I ever abandon a perfect script, even if it didn't? No.
Okay. Have you ever questioned if your voice truly matters in this industry?
Yes.
And would you rather tell a powerful story that reaches 10 people deeply than a forgettable one that reaches millions?
I'll say yes, but that's nuanced. Yes.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it. Okay. That is amazing. And before we wrap up, tell me, what's the one moment in your career that reminded you why you started in the first place?
I was in the national tour of a chorus line. It came after some tough challenges, like being a dancer is really hard. It's really hard on your body. And I had like gone through a back injury and really rehabbed that, come back stronger. Was like a chorus line was my absolute dream show. I got to understudy Cassie and I was a swing. And so I got to go on for Cassie a lot, which was amazing because that was just watching Donna McKechnie as a kid. I was like, my whole life, my musical theater career could be over after I was in a chorus line and could play Cassie. And it was so fun to play her, but I think the moment that like really hit me and I knew this was why like I do what I do, I was in Thousand Oaks, California, and I was between shows, and I decided to go to California Pizza Kitchen between my two shows. And I had gone on for Cassie. And so I went in to get some food, and there was this girl on crutches, and her mom came up to me and they started talking to me, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you were Cassie, you were so amazing, blah, blah, blah. We love the show." She goes, "Yeah, my daughter's a dancer, and she's just like really down right now because she broke her leg and like she's having a really tough time." And so I ended up sharing with them like my whole journey of getting Cassie and what I had gone through with the physical therapy and rehab and everything. And that for them was like the thing they were going to take away. She was like crying and sobbing. And she's like, "This is so much more inspiring now, like knowing your story." And like, I was a little too young to play Cassie at the time, but like a huge part of Cassie's story is she's coming back to this thing that she hasn't done in a long time and questioning if she can even ever do it again. And I think why the show has stayed so resonant and is now going to have its 50th anniversary is like whether you're a dancer or you're an athlete or no matter what you've done in your life, like everyone has this moment where you don't know if you're going to get to do the thing that you love anymore. And they loved it so much they drove to Santa Barbara for like our shows in Santa Barbara too from Thousand Oaks. And that was just the moment for me that I was like, that's why I do this because it's not about the fame, it's not about being recognized, and whether it's the film or it's the theater, it's like we're like all just humans struggling, like no matter what you're going through. And so when you get to have that human moment with someone else, and like we all lose our we lose our ability to dream and we lose our ability to like believe in something in the world. It's like that's when we kind of all fizzle out. And so to be able to like pass that on to someone, no matter what it is, I think that's the most important part of this is like the empathy and the passing a part of yourself to someone who's struggling and like giving them that hope through art that they might not get in any other place.
I'm gonna drop the mic because you're killing it.
Now it makes me want to cry. So every time I think of that story, I'm like, I don't remember what the
Yeah.
girl's name was, but
Wow.
I'll never forget that.
That's pretty cool. The fact that you were able to inspire someone, I think that is like the core, right? I think that is like the real reason why you should take like this career, like this type of careers, right? To actually inspire someone because you never know. And the fact that someone can either, yeah, that's the fact that you can make someone feel better by watching your performance in whatever thing. I think that is like the real core to it, like the real essence to it, you know? And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I've been inspired by so many people. Like, you ask, and I'm like, I would not still be here if it wasn't for the people who inspired me too in those tough times. And so I think it's easy to get caught up in the rejection and the day to day of all of this and like forget why we're doing it. But that was like a moment for me. I was like, man, it was worth like all those moments of physical therapy. It was worth all the rejection. It was worth all those auditions because like I got to have this like human moment with someone else. Many
Yeah.
of them, but like that one.
Yeah, I do think that sometimes the that fame and all of that sometimes can make a person to actually uh yeah, to actually forget the real reason why they started in the first place. You know, and
Yeah.
it's a shame when things like that kind of disconnect your true self to it and then suddenly you became into somebody else that you thought that at first you were never gonna do it, but
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah. Anyway, and before finishing up here, my last question. So we can all enjoy and
Oh,
relax after an epic chat here. So here we go. What do you think that could be the best title for this episode?
oh my gosh. Titling the episode. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. That's really hard. That's a lot of pressure. Hmm. I don't know, something about like your purpose or remembering why you do this or like empathy or being human or um if you're still standing, like if you're still breathing, you're meant to tell a story. So share that. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good title or not. It's really hard.
Take your time. Usually, this question it takes the longest, so I totally get it.
Oh, I'm like Chat GPT. What's a good title for this? I mean, a funny one could be like from princessing to producing or something. I don't know because I lived the whole Disney life. But
What about check this out? When the plot twist is you.
ooh, I like that. Yep,
Yeah,
sold, sold.
there you go.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, when the plot twist is
When the
you.
plot twist is you. That's going to be my memoir. I think so.
I mean,
That's
who knows,
great.
right? We are giving
That's
a
good.
maybe that's a franchise here. Who knows?
Yeah. And the plot twist is you.
Hmm,
I like that. That's
there you
good.
go. There you go.
Yeah.
And at the end, what can I say? The fact that you're pursuing what makes you happy is pretty cool. The fact that you're doing it. I mean, we all know that following something that truly drives you outside the typical box, it tends to be a pain in the butt sometimes. It tends to be
Yeah.
annoying every now and then, and
Yeah.
it can take you to very dark places sometimes. But the fact that you are showing
Yeah.
up and actually keep showing results to it, I think that is super incredible. And also, besides creating cool stuff, you're also giving us a powerful, positive message to it. The fact that dreams can come true, and I think something that is super positive, especially right now in this crazy era that suddenly we want to kill each
Yeah.
other. The fact that we can rely on people like you, who are just showing us cool stuff, but also something to stay positive and to stay happy. That is pretty cool. So
Yeah. I think if we, especially now, can strip there, like, when you were asked, like, oh, would you rather hit 10 powerful people or 1,000? And I'm like, well, sometimes just being entertained is fun. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes having that thing that is 1,000 people is what then leads them to watch the other thing that is more human because they know who you are. So I'm like, it's nuanced. But I think now more than ever, with like how people paint things so black and white sometimes, to like realize underneath each person there's a human is so important. And like we're not as different as we think we are.
boom, perfect way to finish this. I mean, at the end, what can I say? It's incredible to have you here. Also,
Thank you.
I want to thank also those who stay the whole episode. Let us know what you think in the comments below. But by this point, you should know why Makayla is super badass. So let's follow her. Let's make her trending here. Hashtag Team Makayla. And again, thank you for making this happen.
Hey.
Keep shining out there. Keep rocking. Keep kicking ass. And I'll be seeing you in the next one.
Yeah, you too.
All right.